Hey everyone, this is Zach Weiss. I'm here in Geneva at Watches and Wonders 2022, and I'm in front of the Grand Seiko booth. I'm going to talk to you about some of their new watches in the Evolution 9 collection. But before I get to that, if you find this video helpful, entertaining, informative, please like and subscribe below. It goes a long way for us. So this year, Grand Seiko got off to a really big start. They released a lot of watches and they took a little breather. And now that we've been at Watches and Wonders 2022, we know why, because they've released a lot of new stuff. These aren't just new colors and new dial variations. These are whole new watches, including an absolutely insane complication, which I'm not even going to get into here. The Evolution 9 collection more or less got its start with the launch of the 9S A5 caliber, which includes such watches as the White Birch that I reviewed last year. It established sort of a new flagship line for the brand. You know, we're kind of wondering what they were going to do with it, and now they just showed us. So they released 3 new sports watches out of high-intensity titanium, all featuring different spring drive calibers that are going to build off of that DNA, but still really kind of feel like part of this new collection, this new sort of modern concept of the Grand Seiko style. The first watches I want to talk about are the 2 spring drive GMTs. These come in at around $8,400, and they're powered by the 9R66 movement. They're 41 millimeters, around like 13.5 or so millimeters thick, and they wear absolutely beautifully. One really interesting thing about these new sports cases is that they feature an asymmetrical case design. So the right side of the case kind of extends out to cover the crown, and that gives it sort of a clear, sporty sort of look, a much more muscular look. If you like the look of the White Birch, which was by no means a sort of a thin or dainty watch, this is kind of that, even beefed up even more. These are fixed bezel GMTs with brushed bezels, absolutely beautiful, and they come in 2 dial variations. So there's a black dial, just clean gloss black, really sharp looking, and then something that I know everyone's really excited for, and that is a snowflake dial GMT, which to my knowledge has never been done before. They're saying it's inspired by mists that occur in certain natural valleys in Japan, but you know, it also has that sort of feeling that you know from those classic snowflake dial, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Jumping up from there, you have 2 new spring drive GMT chronographs. So if you know Grand Seiko's spring drive chronographs, they're always in very large cases. This is no exception. It is a 45.8 millimeter case, but it is in high intensity titanium, and unlike in previous versions, they actually got rid of those very large screw down pushers, which always extended the size of those cases. I just tried it on, and I have to say, it wears much smaller than it sounds. Like I said, it's not a small watch though, you know, no one's trying to trick you here, but it is by far the smallest wearing of the spring drive chronographs that I have ever tried. And because of the case design of the Evolution 9, which is designed to ride really low, it really feels nice and tight to the wrist. There's 2 versions. One is a kind of gorgeous royal blue, a Grand Seiko blue, if you will, and that's a limited edition of 700 pieces. That one comes in around $12,400 rather. And then there's an open edition in all black, which comes in $11,000 and around $11,500, just around there. Last up is a new dive watch, which I think people are going to find really exciting, as Grand Seiko dive watches sort of have their own cult following, and there hasn't really been one with a sort of a new case design in a little while. So this one is called the Black Stream, or nicknamed the Black Stream, and it has a dial that is inspired by this very powerful current that is found in the oceans outside of Japan, called the Black Stream. So the dial, as you could guess, it's black, and it features some really cool kind of watery textures to it. It's very subtle, very smoky. It's really kind of Grand Seiko texturing at its finest, where it's reserved, but it's still very powerful looking. This case comes in at 43.8 millimeters, I believe, and around like 13.5 millimeters. So it's actually fairly thin for a Grand Seiko dive watch. Once again, it's not a thin watch, it's not a small watch, but like the chronograph, it wears really close to the wrist. It's extremely lightweight because it's high intensity titanium, and like I said, I just put it on and I found it very comfortable. Powering the dive watch is the 9R A5 5-day spring drive automatic caliber. So this is one of the newer generation of Grand Seiko's spring drive calibers, and obviously it has a 5-day power reserve, which is very large. It does have a power reserve on the dial, which, you know, I think actually makes sense in a dive watch. God forbid you're underwater and you run out of power. So here you are never gonna be unaware of that. Plus they're definitely flaunting that 5 days of power reserve. And it's spring drive, all these watches are spring drive. They're hyper accurate, you know, they're at their worst, plus minus 15 seconds a month, but in actuality, they're probably even finer than that. The last feature worth noting is that the bracelet on the dive watch is 23 millimeters at the lug width, but it tapered a little bit more than the other watches, so it felt really nice on the wrist. Then it has a dive watch clasp on it, which does have an extension built in and seemed very intuitive to use. The price on the dive watch is $11,600. And so that is the Evolution 9 series collection expansion into sports watches. I think this is a really exciting addition to Grand Seiko's lineup, and just really great to see what they're doing with this new design language.